Right.
The Egyptian cat mystery. Hurry up, cried Jed, running up the steps and into the museum. He and his big sister Ruby sped to their favourite spot, the Egyptian galleries. They liked to look at all the precious treasures and statues and gaze at the mummies in the decorated cases. Today the galleries were almost empty. Jed and Ruby could look at the ancient wall paintings for ages. "I'd like to be an Egyptian princess and sail along the River Nile," said Ruby dreamily. Oh, she's imagining her being a princess. "Well, I'd like to ride a chariot," Jed told her, "and feel the horses going really fast," as he imagined him riding his chariot. Then they spotted a poster, "Have fun on a museum sleepover." "I'd like to do that," Jed sighed. "Me too," said Ruby, but they both knew it would cost too much. After a while, Jed's tummy rumbled. Ruby's did too. "Snack time," Ruby giggled. "I'm starving." They sat down on a bench. Ruby opened up her backpack. "Yum, yum," she said. "Ugh, prawn cocktail crisps, yuck," rumbled Jed. "She liked them," Ruby joked, pointing at the carved cat, who was sat proudly on a pillar nearby. "Oh, it says no eating. They're not supposed to eat in the museum." "No way," Jed told Ruby. "That cat is too grand for your smelly fishy crisps." Jed really admired the Egyptian cat. She had a narrow gold collar round her neck and tiny golden discs hanging from her ears. Oh, she has. She's a very posh cat. "Sitting there forever must be so boring," Jed said. "Maybe there's a magical day when she comes back to life." Ruby laughed. Just then the sun shone through the window and the cat's face glowed. Jed was sure she had just smiled at him. "Don't be silly," he told himself. While they nibbled their apples, Ruby told Jed a tale about the ghostly Egyptian princess. She was said to haunt the corridors of the museums, although nobody knew why. Jed liked the story, even if it wasn't true. A scowling workman wheeled a trolley along the gallery towards them. He glared hard at Ruby and Jed as if he wanted them to move. "Shall we go?" whispered Jed. "No," said Ruby, "we're allowed to sit here. Although maybe not eat here," she added nervously, eyeing a sign. Whoops! The man unloaded a set of screens. He set them up all around the cat statue. Then he slapped a big "Keep Out" sticker on the outside and went inside all by himself. "That's not fair," grumbled Jed. "Now we can't see our cat." Chapter 2, A Strange Event. As the clock struck 3, the man behind the screen started chanting. He sang in an odd high voice. "Bong, bong, ooh-ah, ooh-ah." "That's a weird song. What's going on?" asked Jed. "I don't know," Ruby frowned. "Did you see that strange amulet hanging round his neck?" Suddenly they heard a shuffling and a sharp cat-like cry. The man came out from the screens holding a big cardboard box and then walked quickly away. "That looked just like a pet carrier," said Ruby. Jed peeked behind the scenes. The beautiful Egyptian cat had gone. "The man does work for the museum, doesn't he?" Jed wondered. "He must do," said Ruby, uncertain. Just then her phone beeped. "Anyway, it's time to go home, Jed. Mum says hurry up." They took the back stairs down the gloomy corridor and the heavy revolving doors. Jed was about to go through when he stopped. A shadowy figure stared back at him through the dark glass. It wasn't his face. It wasn't Ruby's face either. Who's that lady? It was a ghostly woman. She wore a wide jewelled braid around her long straight hair. Her dark eyes were lined with paint and she looked sad and angry. Jed knew only Ruby was behind him. "It's the Egyptian princess," he gasped. "Stop messing about, Jed. Just go through the doors," Ruby grumbled. "I can see her," Jed cried. "No way." Ruby pushed Jed into the revolving doors and immediately the figure disappeared. Suddenly Ruby stopped and stared. Then she gulped and pushed through the doors after Jed. Her eyes were wide. "I saw her too. What does she want?" Their bus Their bus was at the stop, so Ruby grabbed Jed's hand and they rushed on board. "Stay next to me," she ordered. "Look out for our stop." The crowded bus inched through the traffic. Suddenly Jed froze. Further along the bus sat the strange man from the museum. He wore an ordinary coat. His eyes were closed and he was holding the pet carrier. "Ruby," Jed hissed, "look, I'm sure he's got the cat." "We can't do anything," Ruby replied, as the bus squeezed under the railway bridge. All at once they saw a face appear next to them, the Egyptian princess. She seemed to be speaking, one silent word at a time. "Free the cat," she begged. Immediately they glanced at the cardboard box. It was bulging a bit, then one edge split and black paw poked out. "He's got a cat in there," Ruby whispered. "Not any old cat," Jed told her. "It's the cat from the museum. Today's her magic day, and he's catnapped her." It was all very well for the princess to ask them to save the cat, but how? Chapter 3, Cat Rescue. The bus was coming up quite soon. The bus stop was coming up quite soon. Ruby and Jed went towards the door. The man was fast asleep. Now they could see two paws were clawing away at the gap. Jed thought about the ghostly princess. "Free the cat." That's what she had asked. So carefully Jed pushed one leg against the pet carrier. As he pushed, the whole gaped wider. Quickly the cat slid out and smiled up at them. As the door of the bus opened, Ruby and Jed glanced at each other. "Go," Ruby hissed. "Oh, the cat's going as well." They shot out and away down the nearest street, the cat at their heels. They saw the man wake and struggle to his feet, but the doors had already closed. Too late, he was trapped inside the bus. Jed and Ruby had saved the mysterious cat. "But what do we do with her now?" Ruby said. The cat walked along between them, proudly holding up her tail. The street lights shone on her golden collar and the glinting rings in her ears. "Wow, she's a posh cat." "What shall we tell Mum?" Ruby said as she unlocked the front door. "She'll be home soon." Pets were not allowed in the flats, but that did not bother the cat. Meow, meowing happily, she prowled around and made herself at home. She chose a corner in Jed's room, just behind the chair, and curled up into a ball. Not a moment too soon. Mum came in beaming. "Did you have a good time at the museum?" "Listen, kids, after we've eaten, I've got to pop out for a while. Mrs. Brown from next door will look in on you. Is that okay?"
My teacher's called Mr. Brown.
"Is she? Oh, that's nice." Ruby and Jed sighed happily. Once Mrs. Brown had turned on the TV, they could go and look after the magical black cat. "She's so beautiful," said Ruby. The cat woke, gave a long, elegant stretch, and sprang up onto the windowsill. She nuzzled at Jed's books about the Egyptians. Suddenly she paused. She stared at the round glass paperweight. Inside the glass sphere was a model of an ancient pyramid. All at once the cat's eyes became two green full moons. "Meow!" she cried, calling the children closer to her. "Ooh, she seems to like the pyramid." Chapter 4, Another World. Ruby and Jed felt the glass globe growing longer and larger until it became an enormous shimmering bubble. Suddenly, they were all inside and in another place, hot and dry and sunny. "It's ancient Egypt," gasped Jed. The air was scented with spice and desert dust. Sand crunched under their feet as their cat led them onwards into a busy market full of people and animals. Beyond were the banks of a vast river. The cat led them onto a sailing boat filled with dates and fruit. The boat sailed upriver, passing between fields of grain. Jed and Ruby gazed around, but nobody stopped or stared at them at all.
The dreams came true, didn't they?
After a while, they reached a landing stage. Jed and Ruby got off the boat and the cat led them towards a waiting chariot. They held on tightly as the driver flicked the reins. Off raced the horses along the wild road. They were going very fast. The chariot stopped at the entrance of a grand palace. "Meow!" called the cat, taking
It's
Ruby.
Cleopatra.
It is. And Jed into a great hall
Wasn't
full of
she a
musicians
ghost in
and
the
dancers.
museum?
Was there what?
Cleopatra was a ghost in the museum.
See, that's the reason she come for the cat. There on the golden throne sat a beautiful woman. She was smiling at them in a mysterious but friendly way. She's the only one who can see us, Jed said. The princess gasped. The princess, gasped Ruby. Then in front of them they saw a necklace. The wings were made from turquoise stones, and a bird's body and head was gold. One gleaming stone was left ready to set in place. This is why the cat had brought them here. The cat had chosen them to free the princess from the curse. They've got to put the stone back in, look, into that necklace, and then the curse will be lifted. Ruby picked up the stone. The surface was carved with strange signs. As she placed the stone into Jed's palm, the gem glowed. It must be magical, Ruby said. It belongs in the necklace, doesn't it? Jed agreed. I think the cat wants us to make the necklace complete. As they put the stone back, the cat began to purr loudly. Suddenly, they were outside in the blazing sun of the courtyard. A blast of trumpets echoed around them. All the people lifted their heads and became as still and silent as statues and paintings. The cat gave a strange cry. Everything shimmered and shone around them. The next moment the air smelt like home again, and they were back in their own time. The cat was still with them, purring smugly. Ruby, Jed, Mrs. Brown was calling. Are you okay?
The cat's
Your mum will be
behind
home.
the chair.
It's again. In a moment, the cat had curled herself up behind the chair again. How, said Ruby. Can we get her back to the museum?
Chapter 5.
I don't know, said Jed, looking worried. Thank you. I missed that. Chapter 5, that's right, the princess. Mum had only been home a moment when the doorbell rang. Who can that be? Mum opened the door. They all stared. Outside in the dark was a tall, elegant woman with large painted eyes. She was wrapped in an ancient shawl, and her dark hair frizzed wildly around her head. She carried a large battered straw basket under her arm. Good evening, she began in a voice that was soft as a cat's purr. I'm Professor Hackerton from the museum. Opening her basket, she held out 2 envelopes in her long ring-encrusted fingers. Good news, your children have won young Egyptologist prizes. I can't say that one. The professor gave a dazzling smile. Our records show that your children often visit the museum. No, he's taping it. Mum nodded, especially the Egyptian galleries. Jed and Ruby nodded. We were there today, they stammered. Could this mysterious professor be who they thought she was? She had not stepped into the light. The professor smiled. Yes, it was a day when we needed observant children about. Ruby and Jed opened the envelope. Sleepover tickets, they cried. There's one for you as well. The professor gave Mum a ticket too. Mum went pink with excitement. Oh, please do come in, she said. I haven't finished. I'll just pop into the kitchen and put the kettle on. The professor stayed in the shadows outside. I'm sorry I can't come in, she explained. I have an important job to do. She gave a curious low whistle. Meow! And out from Jed's room ran the cat. She twirled and whirled round Professor's ankles and leapt into the open basket, purring happily. Sorry, it's later than I thought. I must go, said the professor, clutching the basket to her chest. The professor winked. Well done, you two, she whispered. The Egyptian cat is safe again. By placing the gem in the necklace, you broke the curse that kept me as a ghost. Then she hurried off into the night. What a strange woman, Mum said. And what a wonderful princess, Jed whispered to Ruby. Next morning, Mum checked that the sleepover tickets really were okay. Just as she was logging off from the museum website, she stopped. Look at this. There on Mum's tablet was the image of the ancient Egyptian princess. It says here that she's supposed to haunt the museum. You know, she reminds me of somebody, but I can't think who. Jed and Ruby just smiled. They knew who it was, didn't they? See if there's any more. The end.
Let's look
Well,
at...
that's good. That was
Let's
a good
see
story.
if there's any more, Grandma.
No, that's the end. Look.
Look, there's loads of other... Where's other books are back?
Oh, there.
So, we got that one. We got that one. We got this one called The Night of the Whereby.
Which have you got?
I don't think I have The Night of the Whereby.
Well, you'll have to go to the library again with Mummy. Maybe this week when we're
I
here.
don't have The Night of the Whereby.
No, and we could find another one, Alex.
Why shouldn't we get all of them?
Oh, crikey, that's been 15 minutes. We better stop.